I've gotten a few questions lately about how I go about recording the character voices for audiobooks. With her palm placed firmly on the cold iron, she glared. "You've made the last mistake of your fucking life," Callisto drawled, his hatred evident in his slipping composure. "That's uncalled for," I said, my injuries preventing me from standing. "What?" Callisto said, holding up both arms. "What's uncalled for?" "The F word?" I shook my head. "Why would you ever say that?" "Are you serious? I'm a pirate. I cut out a child's eye!" "That kind of language is never necessary." Master Zelfrey groaned as he continued to bleed out across the deck. "There's no excuse." Callisto frowned deeper than I had ever seen him before. "So what? We're gonna stop fighting because I cursed?" "I think you should apologize," Ilya said. Nicolin hopped up and down on her shoulder.
"Yeah, an apology is in order. Think of all the minds you've damaged with your rude language. This is a young adult story."
He swished his tail in anger. "Fine," Callisto growled. "I'm sorry I used the F word. Can we get back to the fighting now?" I do them all at once, but how do I do that? Well, I usually have a pretty good idea of what the characters' voices are like. I get pretty familiar with that, so that way it's a lot easier for me to switch in between them. So Volk is the main character. He is the point of view character for the book. Whenever I'm doing an audiobook, the main character tends to be my voice. It's a lot easier to do that and carry that through for the many, many, many hours that it takes to do an audiobook. Now, in Volk's case, he's younger than me, so I'm a little bit higher with Volk. He is an adventurer at heart. He loves the stories of swashbucklers, so I tend to go with more enthusiasm when I'm doing Volk's voice. Ilya is one of the secondary characters, and also a female. Now, obviously, I don't have a female voice, so I tend to soften it up more versus male voices, and it provides a nice contrast for showing the different characters there. Whenever I'm doing dialogue for her, I tend to get a little edgier with the delivery, when I can. Master Zelfrey, when we first meet him, he's a drunk, and he's burned out, and he's seen some things. So, for me, age, it's going to get lower. Textured. This is a guy who's been drinking his calories all day, so it tends to live in the throat a little bit more. Someone who's been down in the hard stuff a lot more. And so this is where I ended up. Alright, now Callisto. Callisto is a dread pirate. He is arrogant. He is powerful, and he knows it, and he is cruel and sadistic. And Shami, the author, came to me and said, "Hey, I was thinking more along the lines of this," and she referenced a character from One Piece. And I went and listened to that, and I had a much better idea of what she was referencing. So with Callisto, again, he's an older character, so we're going to get a little bit lower again. He's not going to be high-pitched, and he's big and he's strong, so he's going to have a lot of body in his voice. But he's also arrogant, and he's over everything that you could possibly do. He just wants to get on with the rest of his life, and you are all too weak for him. So he tends to be more arrogant, and he tends to be punctuated with everything that he says. Nicolin, one of my favorite characters to voice in the entire series. He has some of the absolute best lines in the entire Frith Chronicles series. So he's going to have a smaller voice. He's probably going to be higher pitched.
He thinks of himself as a lord. He thinks of himself as parts of the aristocracy.
So he is going to have he's going to proclaim everything that he says as it being very important.
So it was a very high-pitched voice, and I added in the received pronunciation for his accent, so that way it became across for an American audience to sound more posh and more important and a bit of a blowhard the way that he tends to deliver things.